Hello, this is Jailene. I'm Scott. We're Internet Safety Concepts. Welcome back to another episode of today's technology and making sure we empower good choices for ourselves and the people we care about the most. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. I am excited about what we're doing.
Me too.
I got to tell you, this is all. The next couple episodes is all Jailene's idea. We've been brainstorming, and the next couple episodes, this one starting off, is leading up to some very important topics, and it's all the brainchild of you because you wanted to talk about this.
Yes.
And it's been weird because we've been trying to find that balance of lightheartedness and humor, which I think we bring to it when we do it, and it's real. Mm-hmm. But the topics we're going to be talking about over the next couple episodes, I know how I would describe them. How would you describe them?
Harsh and real.
Okay. But I think real is a great way to word it because I think some people watching it might not believe it's as real as it really is.
Yeah.
So we're going to be leading up to, and every episode for the next couple ones is going to be building up. We've got some special guests possibly lining up that are going to come in and talk with us that hopefully can just educate you, get you thinking, get you talking, and very important topics.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So why don't you let everybody know, what is today about? How are we starting this whole process?
Today is talking about online communication, chat rooms, instant messaging, and how that could be problematic.
Okay. And how that started years ago, because like we joked a little while earlier, we don't even sure if anyone calls it instant messaging anymore. We kind of dated ourselves when we said AOL and Yahoo and stuff like that. But it's where it all started.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of these kind of communications where I see, I'll share my thoughts of why I'm so concerned about how we communicate with people and why we communicate with people. And I hope you do as well.
Yeah, of course.
So let's talk a little bit just to give a history why it's important to us. Where did you start? Your first memory of online communication came from where?
Well, AOL was like really big when I was younger.
Okay.
However, my mom did not let me use it. She said it was not appropriate for a child of my age. But
And you were how old?
Like 6th grade, 5th grade.
Right, your mom was right.
Yeah. But of course, all my friends had it. It was very popular. I think I did have a Yahoo Messenger when I had my first email, and I thought it was so cool. But most of the kids were using AOL.
Okay.
At the time. Like, it was, like, rare that someone had a Yahoo Messenger.
So these look familiar.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to agree with your mom, and maybe some of the students watching this aren't going to agree with me, but back then especially, 5th and 6th grade, it was nowhere you should be because of what could happen.
Right.
If you were just communicating with your friends, it was a good technology. But it was so easy to lose control that way.
Right. And I also think it's kind of what, I don't want to say started to instill a lot of fear in parents, but it certainly is the beginning of a lot of stories that you hear online, that you hear on the news. This child met up with a person they met online. This child was chatting. So I feel like that is important. We need to talk about that.
I think so too. All right, let me jump right into it. I have a very strong opinion on young people using messaging program because of what I used to do. AOL was my area. When I was part of a task force, we all kind of picked our different areas. AOL was mine. So what I would do is go into the chat rooms that were either geared towards kids or go into a room that I thought kids would go into or just go into a general public room. And what I saw and what I learned was amazing because I would go on, usually 13 to 14-year-old girl is what I did when I went undercover. And I would go into any type of room that was out there, and I would get solicited for sex. I would get talked to in a way that you looked at it and went, you don't even say hello.
Yeah.
You just all of a sudden bombard with these inappropriate things. And I'll share my first ever experience. I was in a room full of police officers. This is when we were training. I wasn't even doing it yet. I was just training. And we were all on AOL Messenger. And a guy said, "Where are you?" And at the time, we were at the police academy here in Connecticut. So I said, "I'm a Meriden." He goes, "Hey, I'm a truck driver. I'm driving through." I said, "You want to meet?" I said, "Okay." He goes, "You want to meet at the mall? I'll give you $25 for oral sex." I go, "Well, we just met." He goes, "Think you can get to the mall?" And he showed up. Now, we were still learning. We couldn't make the case for an arrest. Right. But we went and we saw him. That was about an hour online, my first experience. And that's one of my passions of why I keep doing it. because I spent 10 years
Right.
going into these things doing it. So it's important that we talk about this evolution of communication because that's how it all started.
Right. And we're also not saying that this is every child's experience,
No,
right?
absolutely not.
So, in a way, it's like you didn't go out looking for it, but you made your presence known in that chat room, right?
No, I would just go in. I wouldn't
Just go in?
I wouldn't even go in
Jeez.
and start a conversation. I would just go in looking around a chat room, and then I would get the private messages through Messenger.
I see.
Now, some of them were just, "Hey, sweetie, you're too young to be in here. You need to go." And there were great people out there trying to look out for me through their Messenger. But then there was guys that, and it was
Weren't
mostly
looking at-
guys. I'm sure there
yeah.
were girls that were committing crimes too, but it was mostly a guy-related crime. So when I talk to students, one of the biggest things I harp on is knowing who you communicate with.
Right.
And it all comes from my firsthand experience doing this stuff. But see, now those are gone. Now the challenge we have is we're communicating, but we're communicating in so many different forms, and it's 24/7.
Yeah. There are so many different apps out there that just make it so easy to talk to whoever you want, whenever you want. And sometimes you might not even be looking for the conversation. It just approaches you. Like, for example, you could be on Facebook and you could get a random message on the Facebook Messenger. Or you could be on Instagram or Twitter and get a random DM. Like, sometimes it's not always just the child or person looking for the conversation or joining those apps. It could just be regular social media.
And again, I think we have to really reinforce what you said, that not every person that communicates is an evil person.
Right.
I personally believe in, and if anybody's got a real dark attitude towards the internet, it could be me. I believe that the majority of us out there are great people,
Yeah.
just communicating and having fun.
Yeah.
But since you've been this big, people have talked to you about stranger danger.
Yep.
You can't tell the good from the bad. Now you put a screen in between it. There's no way you can do it. There's no way. And again, it's not just kids. I remember one time I went online as a 37-year-old woman with 2 young boys for sons. And I don't even want to go into detail what was asked of me and what was going on. So it's not just our kids being talked to dirty. It's, as society, we've got to step up our game on being respectful to each other and making sure we're doing things the right way.
Well, that also speaks to, you never know who you're talking to because you're essentially catfishing those other predators. And, that's the problem. We have so many online predators who are masking themselves as friends, as nice people, as random people that just want to be your friend. And then it escalates to, okay, meet me at the mall. And then your child doesn't return home to you.
Yep. I've helped out in those cases, and they're not fun.
No.
And the thing is, people can be convincing.
Yeah.
You mentioned catfish, and people watch that show, and there's an entertainment value to it, I'm sure. It's not my thing, mainly because I've watched that. I've watched To Catch a Predator, all these very informative shows, but I also lived it, and I saw the real dark side to it.
Right.
So I kind of have a different view of it. But it's important to learn from it and understand that it can happen in the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. And it all depends on who we're communicating with and everything. So we start off with AOL messaging, chat rooms.
Right.
Then we got to go to text messaging. That kind of really took off and blossomed.
Yeah.
Where do you think it went from there?
Well, I definitely think that, like, text messaging is at your fingertips, right? Like, who doesn't have their phone on them 24/7? So I'm sure that, like, when text messaging, really, like, blew up, they were like, okay, then just give me your cell phone number. So now I can just text you at all times of the day, when you're in school, out of school, at home.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
And now what I'm learning from kids is we're in that next complete evolution, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because what kids have told me is, Mr. Driscoll, I don't care if my parents take my phone away. I got social media messaging, and I don't need my phone to text message. If mom takes my phone away, I just grab your phone and go, hey, can I log on to my Instagram for a second? I got to check my messages. Now, let's take the positive of that.
Right.
You can never lose messages. That's a cool way to stay in contact.
Yeah. Yep.
However, what are some of your concerns about all these DMs and private messages that people...
Right.
All right. Explain to my generation. DM.
DM means direct messaging, basically just means instant messaging. It's a private message that can be found only on your account between sometimes multiple people or just you and another person.
Okay. So if a kid says, hey, slide into my DM, which is a common term, tell the parents, what does that mean?
Sliding into someone's DMs just means sending them a DM or a direct message.
And I say that because of the questions I receive from parents.
Yeah.
My generation, when you say slide, we think someone's sliding. Someone's doing something where it's not that way.
No.
We sometimes take things so literally because that's how we were brought up. We use the words that were meant to be. And that times have changed. And the internet has changed it for us. That's why I think it's important to also understand the terms. So DMs is important. What are your concerns about, and we'll talk about social media apps individually as we go on with here, but in general, let's just focus on the messaging, because that's what today's all about.
Right.
What's your number one plus and number one concern when it comes to the private messaging of social media?
I think number one plus would be, like you said, I'm always in communication with whoever I want, whenever I want. So, for example, I have a nephew, so sometimes when his mom will post things, I can get it like an instant alert or an instant message that she posted something for me to see. Or she sometimes will send me DMs of him, like a video or something. So it's great to connect that way.
Okay.
A negative or a downside would definitely be that if you're not set to private, anybody can message you. And I feel like that's where some of our fear is the right word, stems from, because we just want to make sure that you're not getting DMs from random strangers.
Okay. We're close, you and I. Because for me, the plus is I don't do a lot of posting on my social media accounts. Mm-hmm. But I see things that make me want to say, like let's say you put something up about a really good time in your life.
Okay.
I might say congrats. But I'm not going to do a long, drawn-out thing. But I will private message you and say, hey, Jailene, I'm proud of what you did. Congratulations. Boom. I think that's another great level of communication we can use when done appropriately. We know each other. It's done safely. My biggest concern, I got two when it comes to social media messaging, is, and you nailed it, strangers.
Yeah.
Or what some people might call followers.
Mm-hmm.
People we don't know that can direct message us.
Yeah.
And direct messaging people come up with a sense of braveness. Mm-hmm. Maybe they come up with a sense of inappropriateness, whatever word you want to use. But we drop our guard when we're just looking at a screen. Yeah. And we might say things we normally wouldn't do. Not saying it's illegal. Not saying they're breaking the law.
No, yeah.
But the appropriateness and the safety that goes along with it. And the other thing I'm concerned about is a lot of these private messaging have disappearing features.
Yes.
And with a disappearing feature, not that there's anything against the law about it, and when used appropriately, they're fine. I've just seen way too many kids drop their guard and go, I'll send you that risque, sexting, dirty picture because I know 10 seconds is going to disappear. When you and I both know, and most of the kids out there know, it doesn't always disappear.
Nope.
So for me, it's because of those kind of things, which is what we're building on in these episodes. As a matter of fact, we're going to keep building on that, is the false sense of security, I guess I would call it.
Okay.
And I don't want to see that happen with anybody. When used appropriately, this stuff can be fun. Mm-hmm. It's a great way to communicate if we know who we're communicating with.
Right.
So do you talk to a lot of people who talk to strangers online?
Yes.
Do you know, all right, I guess for me, what's the draw?
I don't know. Okay. Honestly, I do not understand what is so fun and interesting about talking to someone that you don't know. I would have to guess that it's the unknown, Okay. You're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to see next? Or, oh my gosh, who am I going to talk to next?
I mean, there's so many different facets. I mean, let's just take dating for dating sites and stuff. You have to break the ice and meet someone new,
right?
In that aspect. So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But to go on to sites like the next one I want to talk about, we're going to talk about, is called Omegle, where the tagline of this company is
talk with strangers.
Okay. Now, this isn't a dating site.
No.
This isn't a site where you're going to hook up with people or meet people or develop long-term relationships.
Nope.
If you have and it's been successful, hey, you're one of the lucky ones, more power to you. And we don't pass judgment on that.
No, we don't.
But we also know how this works, and it's not the primary purpose of a site like Omegle. And the only reason we're picking on Omegle, because there's a lot of them out there like this is the extremely popular one with the young kids right now.
Yeah.
And it has been for a while. apps and programs come and go. It's like a pendulum. They're really hot, and then all of a sudden they disappear.
Yes.
This one was really hot, kind of faded for a while.
It did. It did.
Now it's back.
It is
I
back
don't know
in
why.
full swing. I don't get it.
So I want to hear what your advice is on this one first. But if you haven't used it, here's exactly what happens. You go on and you connect with your video and microphone to random strangers.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that stranger, you hit stop. And then what happens?
Another stranger pops up.
Another stranger pops up. And it's a continuing cycle. Now, programs like this have been around for a long time. And again, we're not saying Omegle has to be taken down or anything like that.
Right.
But as parents or as young people who are using it, you have to be aware of what could happen on here.
Right.
So what's your biggest concern for the young people in your life when they say they might be going onto this program?
It's a lot scarier than you think. I would have to say, I mean, you brought this site to my attention like now a year ago, 2 years ago, and I had no idea about it, but you showed me some videos of it, and I was honestly terrified. It's scary. Like, some people use it to scare other people with like masks, and they say creepy things. Some people figure out where you live.
Yep.
Like, there was one video we saw of a man who, I don't know, just knew where this young girl was living. It was very creepy. So I guess just don't do it. That's my advice to you. Please don't do it.
And it's funny because this is, just so you know, this was a site that we went back and forth on. Do we talk about it? Do we not?
Yeah.
But we want to have very open conversations. A year ago, I was at a middle school, and this is why I'm so happy we're talking about this. At the end of my presentation, seventh grade girls came down to me and after one of my assemblies on internet safety, and they said, "Hey, you didn't talk to us about Omegle." And I went, "What's the tagline of the company?" And I kid you not, all 7 girls put their head down because they knew where I was going with it. And they said, "Talk to strangers." I said, "Now, do you understand why I wouldn't bring that up in front of several hundred students?" I said, "Girls, why are you doing this?" And they all kind of went, "It's kind of cool." I said, "Well, what are you doing when a stranger comes into your room?" And they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "Your camera's on.
Right.
You're broadcasting yourself to strangers." And a couple of them just didn't make that connection a little bit. So it's important to understand with these programs out there, if we're talking about the evolution of communication, we've got to make sure we know who we're communicating with. And it comes down to bare principles of making sure if we're sharing information with people, who are we sharing it with and why are we sharing it with them?
Right. And I think a lot of people are not thinking about, the fact that they could be on their like laptop or other device and recording you with something else.
Absolutely.
Right? So I've seen it plenty of times on TikTok. I've seen videos of people on Omegle with other strangers, and they recorded it on another device, and it's on TikTok for the entire world to see.
And it doesn't take much to track down someone's IP address.
No, it doesn't.
So you can find out where the person is. So although it might be a worldwide web-based program, and it's a website, it could be anywhere, it doesn't take much to zero down a search.
Right.
So when we're talking about communication, well, we have to understand the importance of communication.
Right.
So as we wind down here, because we're going to wind down time, give me, in this whole evolution, starting off from chatting to text messaging to where we are now, give me what you think is the best thing to come out of it, and what do you think is something we really need to be concerned about?
The best thing is obviously communication, how easy it is to communicate with our loved ones, with family, even across the country and across the world. Like, it's great. It's awesome. But we really need to be careful who we're talking to and who we're sharing intimate details with, because it could be catastrophic.
Okay. Absolutely, I think all of our stuff should be private and we should know who we're talking to. And I feel we've got to also make the good choices that if someone wants to communicate with us, maybe ask yourself, why would I want to communicate with that person? Let's say you're a high school student, and just because you share high school halls doesn't mean that if they send you a message or send you a follow request, you have to approve them.
Right.
If it's not right for you and you want to keep the communication just as, "Hi, how you doing" in the hallway, and that's it, you have every right to do that. I get follow requests and friend requests from people I went to high school with. if I didn't like you then, you're strangers now.
Yeah.
I'm not approving you. And I know we laugh about it, but I take that very seriously, that I only allow people in that I want to communicate with. So if I do use some form of communication, I feel pretty confident in it because I've thought about safety all along the way.
Right.
So with that being said, again, we're not telling you to take down every form of communication, but if these programs today kind of hit a nerve, or maybe you're not familiar with them, research them, look into them. You can reach us through our company, InternetSafetyConcepts.com. But do the research and make sure that the form of communication you're doing has the safety you want in place, and you know who you're communicating with, because it's going to continue to grow. It's only going to get better. The technology is going to get better, but we got to make sure the safety goes right along with it.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to say as we wrap up?
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Ladies and gentlemen, Jailene, Scott, we're Internet Safety Concepts. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.